John T, so good to be here with you, and thank you for coming dressed on form with your Australian hat there. Appreciate it big time.
No problem. Glad to be here. I came representing.
Representing. I love that. So, John, wanted to bring you on, pick your brain, ask you some questions that I hope is going to help maybe a new person in this space, someone who's coming into or learning about the decentralized networks. This next iteration, I would call the iteration of the internet, this next space we're going into being blockchain, real world projects. And what I mean by that is just real businesses, products and services that businesses are delivering to the world. But in my eyes, from what I've learned, in a much better way for humanity and where the world's going. So can you take us back a little bit first, just for those who maybe don't know who you are? Appreciate you representing Australia, but is like, who is this guy in the Australian beanie? Like, what's his background? What's he going to teach me? What does he know? Because I know, and I may have the years wrong, so please correct me, but say, 2020 were really part of building and growing and experiencing one of the fastest growing decentralized networks, being the Gala Games. And that token, so Gala token, was also the highest growth token in that time as well. And maybe you've got the numbers around that you can share. But I'm interested to know, one, how did you know to position yourself in that space? And what did you learn after seeing something like that, something grow so massively, so quickly, and at a time where people probably had never really even heard of all of this?
Yeah, these are really good questions. I'm John. I'm from the United States, not Australia, but I like to. One of the Aussies kind of gave me this when I was out in Hawaii for one of our events, so I like to come correct. But so I originally got into the blockchain in 2016, and I spent
Mhm.
about 2 years kind of finding my way. We go through that gap, like transversing that gap of understanding, learning what not to do, learning what to do, and I was able to quit my job after like about 2 years. I made my first couple $1 million in the space and started to kind of like find my way. And I had this fundamental shift in the way I see the blockchain. Cause at first it was really just all about like money. How do I free myself from my job, that financial freedom? And it took me a little bit to try to find my way and navigate through that. And then once I got that kind of like financial freedom, the ability to just take control of my own finances, you kind of think to yourself like, all right, what's next? You make money, and this is where my understanding of the blockchain started to deepen.
Mhm.
I started learning of all the cool things about blockchain that the listeners of this may or may not know, but like it's so easy to interchange crypto and blockchain, but they're two different concepts. Cryptocurrencies are just like the application that runs on the tech. And I started looking at it from more of a technology standpoint and like, what else is this capable of doing besides just being a financial tool?
Mhm.
And that's where I first became aware of a project called Gala. And it was actually in late 2018, early 2019, we got introduced this from some blockchain OGs. They had this idea to leverage blockchain technology to create a new system in the gaming space that would change the game, pun intended. And I didn't really care too much. I didn't understand gaming. I thought gaming is a waste of time and energy, but
Mhm.
as I started to understand the problems that existed in the gaming space, and I realized how massive that space is, I began to understand the benefit of blockchain in that space to give the gamers a new experience. And
Mhm.
I kind of really resonated with that. Like, this is cool. Let's use blockchain to set gamers and games free. And that's what we set out to do. And you're absolutely right. Over the course of the next 2.5 years, it was like, to be honest, Nick, it was like stepping onto a new continent before maps. It was like, what do we do? Where do we go? We don't know anything. And it was like, I can talk more into it, but it was a pretty wild experience. At first there was nothing. There was no platform. It was just the vision and developing the community around this vision of decentralization with the idea to really set gamers free. I didn't even realize it at the time, but like, you know, all types of people play games. Older people, even older ladies playing Candy Crush like before their doctor's appointment, all the way down to like hardcore gamers, middle age, and then even young kids playing like Roblox. So like humans love playing games. It's
Yeah.
like let's create a better experience. And depending on where you want to go in that conversation, that's a big story. It's a 2 year story. So
Yeah, it is. But I think there's so much in that. Like, what does it mean by set gamers free? Because, you had a couple of years really learning, diving deep into this space. So there was something that you saw within the Gala Game project to position yourself. But what did it teach you? Like, with one of the fastest growing decentralized networks, and what you knew about this technology, what does that actually mean? Like, what did you learn about the importance of whether it be the technology, whether it be the outcome for the consumer, like the person themselves using this product, or the community, like building a decentralized network? What did you learn?
yeah, I think I learned a lot of different things. That this was my first experience of like
Yeah.
really like being part of something from like just an idea to like building it out on the community and seeing the technology build to actual like market penetration and adoption. So it was a pretty
Hmm.
wild experience. So I mean, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about like taking risks and seeing things before they materialize.
Hmm.
And I think that's part of like human beings in general, right? We have a low risk tolerance. I learned that most of humanity is not ready to put themselves in a situation where they could potentially financially benefit. That they'd rather assume less risk later on
Hmm.
and miss out on all those months or years that would have been worthwhile. I just learned that about human beings. There's a very small percentage of people that can kind of like envision a potential future, just because of that risk tolerance. I also learned some things about like, you know, we talk about this new system of like ownership. Like, what does that mean? I learned that like people act different when they're rewarded and they actually own and get to shape the future of something. It's like a kid, right? They don't know the value of money. They just you lend them $20 or whatever, and you buy them things and they just like break them. They don't care until they actually go out and work for something and
Hmm.
buy something with their hard-earned money. That thing becomes meaningful. And it's the same concept with, owning something on the blockchain or
Yeah.
building into this community owned ecosystem. People act different. They care more about it. It can grow in a different way. And that's really the benefit here, especially in this community owned ecosystem type environment where people are rewarded based on like their contributions to this community. So I've seen it grow in a little bit different way than
Hmm.
I've seen like traditional things grow, more like community oriented, as opposed to just like a company kind of like building something. So that was a real interesting experience for me to
Yeah.
go through.
That's such a good point, isn't it? Like putting that ownership and responsibility back into humans. And we have the ability, and we're meant to, like, we're meant to care. We're meant to have responsibility. We're meant to create. We're meant to do all of that. But over time, we've just given all of that stuff away, right? Just in the way the world works. It's like someone else owns it, a bigger corporation owns it. It's part of a central entity, and we are just users. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned with this. When I first heard the term centralization or centralized institutions, how do we flip it and move over to decentralized networks? It was like, oh, I get it. It's just taking the resources, the power, the responsibility and ownership and moving it back to individuals. Can you talk to us? So that was Gala Games back then. I want to talk about Connect United because it's a lot of the same team that have helped drive this vision and power this up. In the most simple terms, how do you explain Connect United?
Simplest terms. Yeah. So I would say that Connect is a community-owned platform, and some of the viewers might not understand what that means. It just means there's no, like, central company at the top. It seems like it is that because you, like, log into it and it looks, like a normal place you log into, but behind the scenes, it's actually owned by people like me and Nick and, like, thousands of other people across the world. That's
Yeah.
kind of the paradigm shift. So it's a community-owned platform that develops products and services on the blockchain and also is part of a greater ecosystem that's decentralizing multitude of different industries simultaneously.
Yeah. Explain, how would you explain decentralization to the everyday person when it comes into play with these products and services that we talk about?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I've thought about this for like 9 years since I've been in the space, trying to think of like the perfect analogy to use.
Yeah.
And there's not one good one. It's just I need to keep saying different analogies over and over. It's almost like um, how would I explain it? I've used the analogy before where like let's just say we're all sitting around a table like playing cards or playing some type of game, okay? And there's a scorekeeper. Like in a traditional game, right? There's like
Mhm.
one person keeping the score and, as we do moves and validate the game mechanics, like there's one person keeping the score and that person can cheat if they want, right? Because they hold the ledger to it. Just imagine we're playing on this new type of system where we all have a magic piece of paper
Mhm.
that as I write my score into it, your piece of paper blinks my score and everybody around has to validate it. So there's no one
Right.
entity that's calling all the shots. The power and control of that little mini game network I explained in my analogy is distributed to the whole community. And that's
Mhm.
essentially like what we're doing in the blockchain space. It's just instead of a central company calling all the shots, stealing all the profits, we have a system that shares revenue and also shares power and control and spreads that out to the hands of the many as
Mhm.
opposed to just a few corporate people.
Yes, I love that. Can you explain as well, off the top of your head, what do you know are the core benefits and the important upsides that this is going to give back to the everyday person? That a decentralized network using blockchain technology, how does it benefit the world versus staying in this centralized space with centralized products, services, corporations, one point of extraction, profit, etc.? What are some of the things that come to mind that the everyday person will go, okay, I get that.
Yeah, I think just to put it in like perspective to understand, it's like like before us, there hasn't really been a place where you
Mhm.
can use, I call them familiar type products and services, where you could like use a blockchain based products and service that looked very similar to like what you're using already. We're
Yep.
coming out with that type of stuff. So the end user doesn't even need to know or understand blockchain. They'll just be presented with old system or new system, it looks the same, it acts the same, but it has all the key features that a blockchain gives. It's like rewarding. Well, how can a blockchain reward? Well, when revenue shared back to a community, that's how the rewards can come. There's extra money in the system when there's not a centralized company taking it all out of the system. You see what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So
Yes.
I think that's something that somebody can understand, one thing right there. And that plays into both the product and service side of things for just users of products and service, or the infrastructure layer, which that's kind of a whole nother conversation because it's people who support the networks. How do you validate this network? What software nodes? And there's a reward in that. How does the value come to the rewards? Well, all of the revenue that comes in pushes onto the market and those
Mhm.
tokens are redistributed back to the community. No central entity pulling the value out of it. It all stays in, and that's all shared in the form of rewards with everybody who's participating, whether you're an owner, a node owner, or just a participant or a user of a product or service. That's the beauty of it. It's a
Yeah.
system that's built for the people, by the people, governed by the people, control and power in the hands of the many.
It's so good. And these, you know, as you say, products and services, were yesterday? No, the day before, we had one of the local farmers. He lives not far from us. So through Grow, which is one of the projects, part of the Connect United ecosystem. So it's the ag project, just for everyone listening. Where, you know, direct to farmer, we can buy our meat. It was probably a little over 12 months ago, we started bringing the first Aussie farmers on. And he, you know, knocked on my door on a Sunday at 6 p.m. and he's dropping off our meat that we've ordered, which we're stocked up for like easily the next month. And so it's real. It's stuff that we do. Like, I'm like, how many people eat? Cool, we all eat. How many people need to pay for their energy bill? A lot of people need to pay for their bills every month. You know, we use video conferencing. So they're projects that mirror our life. These aren't wants and fancy things. They're everyday products and services that we use. I think the question is, how do we use them better so that we can participate, so that we can be rewarded, and so that it's better for everyone who's involved, which is what you've just explained. Let's talk about the WIN blockchain. So can you explain what the WIN blockchain is, connected to Connect United, and why is it considered the connector?
Yeah, I'll give the simple version because I
Yes.
know it can become very
I always need the
complex.
simple version, John. Always.
So, the Wind blockchain is a very unique blockchain because it does more than just distribute rewards out of the algorithm. It actually has like secondary algorithm. And what that means is, you know, we talked about like in this type of system where there's products or services that are born out of a decentralized network that produce revenue generating. And that revenue comes back to the system, and that system is the Wind blockchain.
Mhm,
So, what that means is it's a redistribution of the value. So, you know, Nick mentioned a few different verticals we're in, like, you know, agriculture. It's just, you name it, we're in a lot of them. And a lot of our projects have real products that everyday people can use that generate revenue. So it's like, how does that revenue get redistributed back to the system? Right. And it's through the
mhm,
Wind blockchain. So there's a special algorithm. It's called proof of action. So it ties the actions of a human being. And one of those actions can be simple. It can just be connecting your node to the blockchain.
mhm.
Couple clicks, you're connected in and you're rewarded every day. There's other actions that are built into this for people who help contribute to meet our ecosystem's goals, and part of that's like community growth and expansion. In the future, because we own this and it's decentralized, and we as a community can make changes, we can vote in anything and incentivize any action that helps meet whatever goal we have as a community. And one of them is to fundamentally disrupt humanity's operating system, you know. So it's like, what can we do as a community to incentivize the world? So the revenue flows through this Wind blockchain. In
Mhm.
addition to that, Connect has its own suite of products and services, and one of the industries that it's focused on, outside of just this like revenue index. That, well, let me explain. This revenue index connects into all of our projects, all of our blockchains. So, um, in addition to that, we understand that AI is going crazy, right? It's growing
Mhm,
exponential. And
mhm.
I'm kind of afraid because it's in the hands of the few. Sam
Yeah.
Altman of OpenAI, ChatGPT, those guys own like 58% market share. All the subscription revenue, they have that market. And I think that's dangerous because when you think about this, it's like, there's no way around AI, right? Like everybody's going to be using it in one way, shape, or form, whether it's through work, school, just anything we do in our digital life. AI is already infiltrating. And it's like, I think humanity should be in charge of like how that helps us. And like,
Yes.
it shouldn't be governed by just the hands of the few. That power and control should be distributed across the hands of the many. And that's one thing that Connect is working on through the Blockbot AI. Right now we have a version 1 of it. It's a chat GPT like search. eventually, as we come out with different versions and start to really decentralize this over a node network, um, we'll really see kind of the future state of where we're going with it. We want to protect humanity,
Hmm.
and secure people's data and things like that. So that's what we're working on doing. And AI is a massive industry. Like, everybody's saying something different, but it's one of those industries like the internet that touched every other industry. So even if we just were able to divert a small portion of the global revenue away
Hmm.
from those big companies like, Grok, OpenAI, um, Claude, Perplexity, even if we could just divert a little bit of that revenue, the industry's so big that that means a ton of money coming into our community-owned ecosystem. And if you own the infrastructure, if you own a block bot, guess what? Because the Wind blockchain's unique and shares revenue, you get to participate in receiving some of that revenue.
Like, it's going to disrupt every part of what we know in life right now. That if someone's going, why does that really matter for me, or what difference can I make? Like, these big boys just, they own everything. Why is it important that AI is partnered with blockchain?
Yeah, these are really good questions. Right now, centralized AI is like a giant mind that
Hmm.
knows everything about us. So it may not, if it's controlled by these corporations that sell our data, it may not have our best interests at heart, right? Shouldn't its interest be controlled by the very people using it instead of just people that don't have our best interest? Corporate interest. We don't want, information to be censored. When I search on ChatGPT or any of these, like, I want to know the truth. Like, I don't want to be given false information, and I think that's super important. And that's just one piece. But decentralized AI flips this whole thing. Instead of one entity owning the intelligent layer, the world, humanity can own it, So that what does that mean? Data sources are more distributed, you know, um, everything's aligned around what's best for the people,
Yeah.
not necessarily corporations. And then the upside, we already talked about like how big the industry is and how much value and revenue is flowing through it. So when that upside is shared with the people, it becomes just a better, more decentralized, for the community, by the community experience. And AI will work for us instead of corporations.
Yeah, absolutely. So someone coming in to the Connect United space, first step is own a block bot. Right? Own a block bot, because you mentioned a couple of ways to participate and be rewarded. There's the ownership side, and you said owning nodes. So I want you to explain that really quickly for everyone. There is the participating side on two fronts. So one is being a user, like customer of that project. And then there is the growth. It's like any business, right? Without the people, there is no power, there is no value, it doesn't exist. So, how do we help people shift and come into this decentralized network? So, could you explain them? And then they're going to be rewarded with the win token. And again, just hit on what's the value of that.
Yeah. So let me explain a couple of things. So the
Hmm.
Blockbot is a very unique product because it actually has two blockchain connections into it.
Okay.
We call these the index connections. So, although each of our projects are their own blockchains and fully capable and functional of like operating on their own, a part of them connects into a greater whole. And Blockbot puts you right in the middle of that. So it has two infrastructure products inside of the Blockbot.
Hmm.
One is the WinSmart node and one is the Foundations node. The WinSmart node plugs you into everything that we talked about, the revenue index, the potential AI revenue that comes through as we create better value in the space and our community starts to grow and we divert revenue that otherwise would have went to centralized entities. So that's
Hmm.
how the token will grow in there. Now the other side of the blockbot is the foundations node. It hasn't gone live yet, but it's in pre-distribution. What that does, it gives you access to the transactional layer of every other blockchain. So the foundation's node is helping confirm transactions, not just across one project, but all of them. So as our projects scale, the Blockbot owner will earn rewards from all of the growth, not
Mhm.
just the Wind blockchain's growth. And I think that's a unique side because, you know, not everybody's going to be an owner. We're going to get to a point where this is just about products and services for humanity. Some of the node products are getting pretty expensive. The
Yeah.
Blockbot is a way, I would say, to get skin in the game of everything at a lower price point. And most people don't have 100 grand, 10 grand to like diversify their portfolio, but most people have 2,500 US dollars where they can plug into the middle and benefit from everything we're doing, not just one thing.
That's such a great point. With everything that you know about this space and you experienced, and this was, what are we talking, 5, 6 years ago now? What you see now being built with Connect United, what's the biggest difference that you believe is going to cause a positive impact? Like, is it that it's being more adopted now? Are we getting into mainstream focus? Are people just really feeling the shakiness of the world? And we are looking for other ways, like without maybe we haven't um, named what we feel, but we feel like things are off. you
Yeah.
know, what do you see that is different from 5 to 6 years ago that makes you go, one, I'm so excited about what's being built here, but it is happening. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, it's not just one thing, it's actually a few things happening at the
Mm,
same time. And I'll touch on the first thing, and it may be different in Australia than it is here in the US.
yeah.
But we have nothing but green lights in the blockchain and crypto space here in the US. Like in this administration, I've never seen green lights like I've seen now. And like
Mm,
Asia is a huge market too that's been greenlit. Europe and Australia, uh, I think it will all eventually be green lights. But from my vantage point here in the United States, we see nothing but green lights. We've never seen this before. And although it's not mainstream adopted, we're at a point with the technology, like compared to like Gala back in from 2019 to 2021, our technology is light years ahead of
mm,
where it was then. And we're not just disrupting one industry, we're simultaneously disrupting several industries. And I think part of it too is what you were talking about. I think when people wake up in the morning and they just look around at humanity and the systems, it's like people are starting to wake up to like something doesn't feel right. I
yeah.
don't know what's going on, but like it just doesn't feel right. And I think when you can begin to understand these type of systems and look at the principles that really guide a blockchain, they can
Mhm.
align with humanity. It really does. If people can just, you know, understand that they don't have to really understand the tech. They just
Yeah.
need to understand what it means. And I think that's hard to do too, because people want to understand new tech, but you don't need to understand how a microwave works. You just put the food in and click some buttons and boom. You don't need to understand how like the electrical circuits in your house work. You know that when you just flip a light switch, the light goes on. And if it
Yeah.
doesn't, you probably know enough technical, you probably have enough technical ability to go to your breaker box and flip the breaker. Like that's all
Mhm.
people really need to know. And I think we're getting there, especially when we see this kind of like new age of blockchain-based products and services that look
Mhm.
very familiar to what people are using right now. That's just gonna really help us progress a lot more because up until this point, blockchain has been really blockchainy, and I think going into the next I think 2026 is a really good year. With our products and services across all of our industries, we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. They'll
Mhm.
continuously get better and offer humanity a better experience and be rewarding. And as we grow, that value will come into the rewards, and it will start to click for people at that point.
Yeah. Do you think there's an urgency, John? I guess from both standpoints, one from an ownership, so to participate within this decentralized ecosystem, Connect United and all the projects. Because I mean, I think of Gala, right? I mean, as you said, like it was 5, 6 years ago. So I wasn't even aware of that. So I guess on one side, for people to be owners of this new infrastructure and really benefit from that potential upside, because I know for you, and you don't have to share in detail, but I think the way you worded it once was, I made a disgusting amount of money. And I was like, well, there it is. So, is there an urgency on that side with ownership? Because as you said, there's only so many nodes. There's only so many owners in these spaces. But also, do you see the urgency on the other side, like for
Definitely. I mean, it's like
humanity?
anything. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. A little bit of lag, but no, there's definitely an urgency. It's like any technology. It's like early
Yeah.
adopters are always have like the biggest upside, and because our nodes, our infrastructure product, there's a limited amount. Not everybody in the world's going to be able to have
Mhm.
ownership from an infrastructure standpoint. But the cool part is, though, I although there is a sense of urgency when it comes to that, because our system recycles revenue back through it, unlike traditional systems, even like the late majority and the laggards, like there's still rewards, but there's way
Yes.
more rewards early on because of the way, like we don't like our tokenomics, it's a reduced inflation over time. So every year there's less tokens and less tokens and less tokens. So unfortunately, this is just how human, psychology works. By the time people have like realized that like, okay, this looks good enough for me to participate, the rewards are less and they've missed out on maybe a whole year of earning rewards. I'll give you an example. Okay. So, and this is real talk. This actually happened. So with Gala, right? I think I had like 10 nodes,
Uh-huh.
and it was harder back then, right? We couldn't run them online and do it super easy with a couple clicks. I literally had to like open up every old laptop I had, blow off the dust, fire it up, update it, and like download the node on it. And like I didn't have 10 laptops. So my wife was working one day and I snuck into her office. I guessed her work password. It was an old iMac. And I'm like, boom, I guessed the password. Yes. So I downloaded the note on the computer. I tucked it away into the corner and everything was going hunky dory for a couple days. And I hear Jonathan. And I said, what? She said, get your ass over here. And so I tucked my tail between my legs and kind of went into her office. And she's like, John, you can't put this stuff on my work computer. And I'm like, no, babe, you don't understand. I was like, these are earning a lot of tokens right now. Well, how much are they worth? Well, nothing right now. But if like all these gamers start to play the games, like these could be worth some serious money, and like long story short, I had to take that note off her computer. And fast forward through time, like as what we did became valuable to humanity, those rewards increased in value. And those were like $10,000 days. Back
Oh,
then, there were nothing.
wow.
It was zero value days. So it was like very similar to just why don't we just take 10 grand and flush it down the toilet every day? So yes, time is of the essence. There is a potential upside, but like we'll never realize it unless we take the risk to put ourselves in a position. And that's what I did.
So beautifully said. What do you see the next 5 years looking like if I guess everything progresses at pace as it is, decentralization, blockchain being adopted. What do you see the world looking like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think what I see, and this is just me speculating, but I see side by side, these two parallel systems. I see this new type of system starting to grow and take on like at least mainstream awareness in the near term, especially once we offer people like we're already offering people products and services, but as our products and services get better and more rewarding and people get that like, whoa, I can just continue to rent over here or I can own over here and be rewarded, it's going to be a no-brainer. And I think eventually what's going to happen is like as these decentralized systems start to grow just as big and
Yep.
overtake these centralized systems, I think the decentralized systems are actually going to suck up and absorb these centralized systems. So just all of the value. So the base infrastructure is a decentralized infrastructure, and that sure there'll be a centralized infrastructure operating within a decentralized infrastructure. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think by the time centralized corporations and systems realize that the world is changing, these decentralized systems that we're building, like we are already light years ahead of them. They are not going to be able to catch up with us at all. They'll have to build for years and put hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure to get to where we are right now.
Wow. I feel like those listening in who truly get this, you've just given them a little bit of hope, which is really cool. Can I ask, what is your personal mission in this space? Like, I know that you don't necessarily need to help build this, put your time, your effort, maybe, time away from your family, put your resources into this, really do that. Is there a different, you said at the start of this, you kind of dove into this space because you saw the opportunity of how do I free myself financially? Like, my gosh, how do I get ahead? And then when you tick off that level of freedom, what becomes the mission for you?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. My mission is to free humanity, like really like high level, like that's what it's about. Like I
Hmm.
know and believe these systems, I've lived them. I see
Hmm.
the potential of where we're going with it and like I just want to like evangelize it and I want people to have the kind of like light bulb moment and kind of like wake up how I did, because people don't know that this exists. They're just it's so easy to get caught up in the monotony of the day or the grind or kids at school and work and digital chaos of tools. It's like,
Yeah.
people are just kind of like comfortable in their bubble, but like really trying to appeal to humanity because mark my words, there's going to come a time when this blockchain stuff, this new system, the infrastructure becomes invisible to humanity and they don't even know it
Mm.
exists. And that's where the unique timing window is. It's like right now it's still really blockchainy, but it's not as blockchainy as it was 5 years ago. Like this is the window that doesn't stay open forever, and that's really like trying to teach people that there's this opportunity where they could position themselves before this just turns invisible and this becomes the new system you know that's where lives are changed, like that's where people can really begin to set themselves free in a more powerful way than they could just coming in 5 years later just being rewarded in this system. You see what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Yes.
Another part of it is that I'm really focused on is like making sure people are secure because in this space we've become the traditional systems where we log in and can reset our password or hit up support. It's made humanity like really kind of give up our responsibility. We rely on third parties too much, and
Mm.
here like we don't. Like there's a great sense of responsibility that people don't know that they have to exhibit, and I want to make sure people recognize that, understand that, and protect themselves from potential threats that exist in this space. And not to scare people or anything. It's just being aware. The awareness of it can be all it takes to protect yourself from it. So it's those two things I think that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, And I think as well, like it's really important because I know you've got a course for that as well, which we in my business Women to Wealth, we are guiding our women to that because it's great to go, cool, I'm in this space, but are you safely in this space? Do you understand the responsibility? Are you set up? Because there are horror stories, right? And there's also bad players. Like there's less and less now, I think, but probably back when, gosh, I didn't even really know anything about this back in that 2019. I imagine there was a lot of bad players, but there's also, I always say, there's also bad plumbers, there's also bad builders. We deal with it in every industry, but it's so important, I think, because people, one, it's the unknown. And that is what a lot of women that we work with struggle with, like the unknown. And so just being safe and secure in this space is so important. So just wanted to say, side note, really appreciate your work and guidance on that. Massive, massive help. Okay, give us some advice. For those of us who are much newer to this space, everything that you now know, help us understand for the new person, the people who win in this new world are the ones who what? What are we gonna do?
Yeah, I think there's only one clear answer. It's the people that stay curious and take
Mm,
action before the rest of the world does. I mean, that's just it, you know. And the people who want to choose ownership instead of convenience, it's that
mm,
simple. You can learn as you go. You don't have to like analysis paralysis is a real thing. I
mm,
witnessed so many people think themselves out of the early gala opportunity only to realize what they missed out on years later. Worst mistake of their lives, you know? And there's no
mm.
guarantees in life. Like, you know, I could get hit by a car tomorrow. You know, there's nothing is guaranteed. You know, if we don't take risks in life, we'll never know. What's the worst that can happen, you know? We'll just rebuild, you know? And so I think it's like, it's really recognizing that there's an opportunity and then just taking massive action and learning as you go, you know? Develop your conviction, develop
Yeah,
your understanding, especially in the way this system's designed now. It's way different than it was with Gala. Gala was hard. You know, here we have it easy. You could learn, we have a community. Most of our community is newer type of non-blockchain people. I've never experienced anything like that before. With Gala, it was built from like geeks and gamers and blockchain peeps, right? Here is like so many non-blockchain people that are getting it and learning it. And it's like so amazing. I'm so proud of our community. And so you can jump on board and shoulder up and kind of learn as you go. And you'll be
yeah.
surprised.
It's such great advice. Like one thing that myself and business partner always do. So when we first got introduced to Connect United, and a lot of the projects that was still to come. There wasn't as many launched back, 18, 20 months ago. But our first point of call is 20 hours minimum. So we do 20 hours. And it's not that you have to know the answer to everything. It's just that you got to start, like, as you said, lean in, be curious, have more questions, keep leaning in, be curious, have more questions. And eventually the dots start connecting. And what I know now, just from listening, to your calls over and over, there's so many people in this community space that have been here for a while that do have the runs on the board, and it helps us collapse that time, the learning time, which is incredible. Um,
Yeah.
if I am someone new and I'm going, okay, where do I start? Your advice, how do I best position myself for all possible rewards, for everything? Like, where do I start? What do I do? What is the best way to position myself?
Yeah, well, I think that's everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
There could be somebody who has a lot of money and they could kind of
Mm.
like position themselves in a different way than somebody who has a little bit of money. Like, I love all of our projects. I'm a massive node owner in all of them, but the reason why I'm able to do that and deploy a lot of capital at like the infrastructure layers of all our projects is because I put myself in a position to benefit. And so like if you're a person who doesn't have a lot of money and you kind of want to dip your toe in the water, I mean, I would start with Blockbot and jump into the learn to earn
Yes.
because you earn rewards from everything and you get to learn too as you go. That's a cool thing. This is like this isn't going to take up like a lot of your time and like all of your day. It's learn as you go, weekly learning modules. I have calls, weekend trainings, recorded, given back to the community on your own time. Listen, learn, grow, evolve, and I think uh it's not where or how somebody should start, it's that they should just start.
Mm,
I think that's the biggest thing because if nobody ever starts, they'll never get anywhere. It's like, the destination starts with one step, and that's the action, So that's what I did when I got involved in 2016. I could have sat there for 2 years trying to figure it all out, and I would have missed out on everything, and I
yeah.
probably wouldn't have been able to find my way to Gala and here, you know. But I took that immediate action right away. I got some skin in the game, and I learned as I went.
Yeah, brilliant advice. John, I just think you're awesome, and I so appreciate your time. I really do, and I
Thank you.
really appreciate there's so many people in this, like, maybe you don't call yourself a trainer and educator, but I think you are. It's a skill that you have, to
I
simplify it
don't
for
I don't see myself as a trainer, but I guess I am. That I'm still learning to be like,
It is a natural gift of yours. And I think it's important because, as you said, probably the biggest barrier right now is the education. Like, how do you get more of us, people who aren't tech, blockchain, nerds, geeks, whatever it is? And I say that in a really nice way. But how do you get like a me to understand this? And you do it so well. So I really just appreciate you. Thank you for your time. And no doubt I'll be chatting with you again soon. I'd love to do another call with more updates as the projects are growing, everything's evolving, the network is expanding. It'll be really exciting to see in 2026.
for sure, love it, and I appreciate the kind words. I still feel like I'm just a carpenter swinging a hammer in 2016 sometimes, so I gotta get out of my own way and just realize that, like, you know, I'm just I feel like I'm super humble, and I don't like to be, like, outgoing and out there, but I understand that I need to share too. This isn't just
Yep.
about me. Like, people need to learn from my experience, and that's part of my humanness, getting over myself. I don't want to be vocal and out there, but I know I have to because people
Yeah.
need it. So I appreciate the feedback on that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Appreciate you, John. Thank you so much.